were a lot of interactions between participants. Thank you very much. And now we are going to switch to the second round table. It's a new topic. It's a topic of change management in higher education. And what are the changes to be made in the organization and the management of higher education institutions, and how to accompany the change and innovations in the learning experience that have been accelerating since the sanitary crisis. To address this question, we have 4 speakers with different international disciplinary backgrounds for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And each speaker will have about 12 minutes. And after that, a general discussion can be organized after the last presentation. We have to start. Dr. Kyungmee Lee. I don't see her. Is she?
She's there, yeah, in the middle.
She's here.
Okay, she's there. Welcome, Dr. Kyungmee Lee. You are lecturer in the Department of Educational Research and the co-director for Technology Enhanced Learning from University of Lancaster in UK. And you have been working on different research projects concerning online learners and teachers' experiences in higher education context. And I think that your purpose is how to move from emergency teaching to sustainable innovations in higher education and how to manage this. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Sorry, I had a bit of slow internet today, so it's okay now. I can see mine too. So thank you for the opportunity for me to share some of my thoughts with you. It's great joy to be able to do this. So as introduced, I'm going to talk about how we can move forward from the emergency online teaching that everyone's seemingly doing at the moment to more sustainable teaching innovations after the COVID period. So let's see if I can click. So basically, the whole claim that I want to make is that online education has been around for many decades already. And as some of you may remember, it was the internet invented in 1991. And that's the kind of contemporary version of internet that we're all using. So internet itself hasn't been a very new thing. It has been there. And when it comes to online education, our history, the history of online education has been even moving farther back in 1970s. So what have happened is that in 1970, 1 and 2, those are years that email was invented. And computer conferencing, I guess that it's nothing like Teams that we're using. However, the ways that the people can talk to each other at using the network at a distance was invented around those times. And as soon as those things developed, these educational pioneers and educational technologists was very, very interested in using those things for a sake of education. So already in 1970s, university have used internet for students to download different materials, and they kind of start a little bit of discussion, very premature format, but it was how the online education has started. And in 1980s, we had seen a lot of first. So first online course for adults, and first online university course for undergrad students, and then postgraduate students. An entire degree program was established in 1986. And people were able to get the entire degree without stepping on the campus, even 40 years ago. And the first online university, now we know as University of Phoenix, was established in 1989. And of course, all the Open University was already existing. So I don't want to talk too much about the distance education using different telephone and post correspondence and so on, different technology. And then finally, we have this 1991, the www was invented. So you may wonder why I'm talking about this history. But for me, it's really important to understand the historical context of the development of online education to fully appreciate how much change have been made for the last 1 year. So it's not like suddenly we got these new tools and then start teach online or start learn online. It was not like that, in my view, at least, as a researcher in the field called technology-enhanced learning. For me, I could see entire history of all those years that we try really hard to do things online. And of course, it wasn't very successful. And suddenly what we're seeing now is just so amazing. Within a year, we made so much changes. But anyway, so what happened in the field that where I belong to, again, called technology-enhanced learning, at the new kind of beginning of millennium of 2000, we're all excited. And there has been a lot of articles and claims came out from the field saying that all human tutors will be soon replaced by e-tutors. Because that's the year that some of you may remember, I were like proper adult in 2000. And that's the year that people were so excited about new possibility that technology will bring to, especially to higher education. So we were actually really talking about, professors will just do research only because all the teachings will be done online by some sort of artificial intelligence that we are now talking about, but the hype was all there. So, okay, so what I'm trying to say is that all the online education started from almost 50 years ago, 1970s, but 2000, 20 years ago, it was just a year that everyone, at least in the field, truly believed that online education will be soon the majority or reality. And we were really thinking that within a few years, everything will happen online rather than face-to-face. All those face-to-face classroom will be shut down. That has been the discussion going on 20 years ago. And then now, as you can see, 20 years later, like last year, March 2020, when COVID virus hit and the university had to make decision in terms of closing it down to suspend all this contact between human beings, I mean, people were like, okay, we have to do the things online now. And a majority of faculty members or staff or even students all together, online education is so new. So, I mean, if you think about all the history, a lot of people who are involved in the process of trying to advance this online education for like 50 years, for us, like, we didn't really know what to feel about because it hasn't been there, but the reaction from the higher education. So for us as educational technologists, we're ready to move, but higher education in general or as a total sense, they're like, oh, we don't really know how to do things online. Online education is like, I've never heard about. I heard about it's existing, but I never thought about it as something that I would do. It's somebody else's business, and I didn't even think about it. That was a reaction after 20 years of the millennium that we were all excited about moving online. Well, but anyway, what happened? Let's just think about what happened. It's in March 2020. It seems like so long ago. And unfortunately, we're still going through this pandemic. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, in March 2020, and when the first time the old faculty members realized that they have to do something about online technology because they couldn't simply meet their students, we worry that these faculty members are not ready for it because they are not competent. They never really use any tools to teach before. And then at the same time, on top of that, it's worse in our situation is they were not very supported. We didn't have enough time. I mean, if you remember in UK setting, at least I can tell that the government asked us to shut the university down on Friday. And then from Monday, we had to teach online. So we had literally 3 days, and it was like 0 working day to move online to pivot our lectures. And of course, there was no proper support or system. The change wasn't really managed at all. There was nothing about change management, which is the theme of our session. And 1 year later, if you think about it, we have changed so much. Now, all these faculty members who were technically online. They're not online only for teaching. They're online for research. They're online for all the meeting, admin stuff. Everything is happening online fully. Some universities are still doing face-to-face teaching, I'm aware of. However, majority of university teachings are done online, and it's less than a year. And when we worried about faculty members were not supported, actually it turned out not to be true. They were really fully supported. Entire web became a community of practice. They share those people who are having a little bit more experience than others share their tips and tools, and then they're supporting each other. So actually more than what one single university can support, they got a lot of support from the web, from peers, from people around the world. So what I'm trying to say, going back to how I start this talk, is it was such a huddle for online technologists to move everyone, change people's perception about this possibility of technology. For 50 years, we were not very successful. But within a year, emergency online teaching really happened. There are a few conditions how this radical change or innovation, so-called, have been able to be made, or 3 conditions. So first one is, of course, shared problem. And there's a huge sense of urgency that no one can potentially resist. We could see that people dying, and we were aware of the fact that people can't really see each other, have physical contact. So there is no one who is saying that, oh, this is not very important, we shouldn't really worry about online technology. Everyone had that shared urgent issue. And that enabled the university or even individual faculty to be able to reallocate the resources they're having. So it's not only about financial resources, but time and effort. So many faculty members are hired as half researcher and half teacher, but we have to spend a lot more hours on teaching. So we relocated our own time and space for teaching. And of course, it was amazing opportunity for individual faculty members and the staff and even students. It was just-in-time learning. We were thrown into the situation that we had to just learn. There was no other way around. And then at the same time, it was kind of safe in a way that we kind of knew that no one is going to blame. If I try the online teaching for the first time, if the score of students is student satisfaction surveys is low, do I have to worry about? No, at the moment, it's not really about anything else. Then we just make sure that things are keeping going. So it's safe space for trial and error. Yeah, thank you. And the level of autonomy that we can make change, an individual faculty member has their autonomy to be able to change the situation in their own way. And we were able to get the instant feedback from students immediately because we care about our students, we talk to them. And then we had also this energy because we knew that this may finish soon. So if it's going to go on in this way for 20 years, maybe not, but we had a limited period that we can, okay, I'm going to kill myself to do it. And then we have also enough time to respond and revise and retry. Well, that's why these conditions made this emergency online teaching happen. So what's next? It's very briefly. So to make this changes into sustainable teaching innovation, I will say there are probably 3 different things that we can think of. So this is not going to be answered. This is not going to question that I will throw to the audience for discussion. So what I'm going to do about its knowledge that we have developed a lot of knowledge and skills, but it's all individually possessed at the moment. There should be some way for us to synthesize the knowledge to share better. And we have to think about reward because it has been a very tiring year, right? So we can't just keep going like that. We need proper rest and reward. And we also give people to have some freedom. Suddenly try to manage change after this pandemic and try to give the rules and regulation to people to follow. Suddenly that wouldn't really work because that autonomy that individual tutors were able to have within their space that made these amazing changes that we should think about how to move forward in the same way that we had. So that's just my talk for now. So thank you very much. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Kyungmee. It was very interesting. And now, Benoît Breton, you are here, Benoît, and just introduce yourself. You are a fine art teacher, and you have been also graphic designer, and you joined Sub de Pub belonging to INSEEC to teach graphism design. And you open up areas to think about in order to prepare the new world of education, thanks to collaboration and experience sharing, allowing personal positive emulation. So you have the floor, Benoît.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvie. First, I want to apologize for my English, which is really poor. So I did some papers I will read a bit. So first, I'm going to share my screen. Here we are. I hope you see it. So I'm going to speak about my experience because I had to adapt my practice on this new world of education. So everybody has noticed that time has changed, and if we no longer want to teach as before, we must question on on what has changed in order to shift our methods. So formerly people were working on Taylorism model, and our education model was preparing them for this eventuality. Nowadays, we need critical, independent, creative and innovative people with the ability to connect. Therefore, our education method needs to change. So we cannot speak of educational disruption without asking several questions like where, which is the container, what, which is the content, who, which means the learners, and how, which means the method. Digital innovation and educational innovation do not necessarily go hand in hand. We know that, for example, Thomas Edison in 1913, in his institutional report on cinema, was saying books will soon be obsolete in school, students will soon be educated via the eyes, our school system will completely change within 10 years. Which we all know it's false. Now, people can easily think it's the same with technology. And as technology is increasingly affordable and makes possible to forge and shape the world on our image, those factors are in reality facilitators, commodities that do not differentiate the market, because in the digital world, it is very easy to copy and replicate. And all the players in the market can find themselves at a similar level very, very quickly. It is therefore the experience that we will offer that will allow us to differentiate ourselves. We are entering in a transparent world in which it will be necessary to constantly prove that the value that we can deliver. The trend for change in pedagogy that has been emerging for several decades has been accelerated by COVID crisis and the forced introduction of the new container. Indeed, the classroom is not longer the rule. The container has changed. Therefore, the contents must evolve and the learning methods cannot longer be the same. Otherwise, a class is not anymore a group only. It has to be considered more like a series of individualities which require more adaptation from our pedagogies. So my first experience was about collaboration with the students. Each learner has been considered as an autonomous piece of a giant puzzle, which imply a collaborative performance. The education engineering needs to be reviewed in this field, so I had to break down into small sequences my courses, induced due to the distance and which is very popular with the students which are consumers of rapid knowledge. This allows us to question ourselves on what we do with those small sequences. The division and learning by quickly putting into practice the small sequences allows everyone to do a small part of the work. And put end-to-end allows to learn from the others by final overview of the finished project. The idea of exchange and mutual enrichment is very present in this type of project. So first, I had to ask my students to do a graphics design of a magazine, for example, which is the first piece of the puzzle. And then the whole classroom did the magazine. So it's like, you know, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. For example, here we have the God giving life to Adam, which is the magazine. But with the whole school, we can do the whole ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. And with a scholar group, we can do the whole Sistine Chapel. I mean, we can do different issues of a magazine. This is an example, the one I first tried. My second experience, before my second experience, a small conclusion about the first experience, about the sharing. The online sharing permits transparency and provide an overview of participants' work. And this also provides the options to measure results like counting the view, knowing the origins of the viewers through analytics to know better our publics. So the second experience is about commitment, because we are judged by our commitments, both by our users and by the general public. The image of the company and of the contents distributed is therefore dependent on our commitments. Getting involved and offering a solution to the problem posed to the students can be a fun, motivating way to create emulation within a group. So I had the experience of investing myself into projects given to students. The idea is to help gain a better understanding of the limits and the challenges of the proposed system. From a didactic point of view, each discipline can bring into place this interactive investment between the different actors of the educational process differently. So in this experience, you see, I gave a self-portrait in the manner of a great painter to do by the students, and I did the same. So you can see this example. And a second example of this experience of commitment, I proposed the student the constitution of a self-portrait as a part of a 2-minute challenge, which is on an online project, which consists of transforming half of one's portrait with a cartoonized interpretation of it. So the last one is, of course, the example I gave to the students before. This way they saw my commitment. In conclusion, I'll say there is an interdependence of the factors that constitute the learning experience due to the modification of the container. The methods evolve, and the contents have to evolve too. Collaborative work allows everyone to do a large part of the whole that gives more meaning to the whole. So cutting into small sequences with quick practice is a positive solution for learners. Sharing results online allows us to create feedback, visibility, and measure the impact. And the personal and institutional commitment can federate and create positive emulation. That's it.
Thank you very much, Benoît, for this stimulating presentation. We had some time to discuss after the last presentations. And now it's to Delphine, Dr. Delphine Le Serre. You are here, Delphine. I've seen you before. Delphine has been successively a teacher, a researcher, an academic dean, an EdTech entrepreneur, and a chief digital transformation officer. She's now living in Canada, and thank you to be with us because it's very early this morning for you. And Delphine, you work as a digital expert in higher education for investment funds, and you are also teaching at HEC Montreal. And you tackled the topic of this session from the standpoint of governance in higher education, namely in investment funds where you are working with now. And Delphine, it's to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sylvie. I'm very glad to be with you today. I will try just to share my my screen. Yeah, could you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. Okay, perfect. Well, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be with you this morning. I was very happy to see one of my ex-students, alumni, David Pintelier. It's a pleasure to see you there. Just to remind me some of the time I spent in Paris when I was a teacher, university teacher and researcher. Well, so thank you again, Sylvie, for your invitation to take part of this discussion about change management in higher education. As you just mentioned, I may have a slightly different viewpoint from governance on higher education organizations, and also addressing, of course, the innovative digital learning issues. So the issue I would like to address with you during the next 10 minutes is the following one. Is there a real change management in higher education in terms of change in management for higher education governance, CEOs, and all the other third parts? Well, let's start by a question. Well, the first question is that the COVID-19 appeared in March 2020, and since it had appeared, what has precisely changed in higher education organization and in the higher education sectors? Well, if we have a look precisely, and it's totally aligned with what the previous speakers said, and especially Kyungmee, since the COVID-19 had appeared, we have noticed, we have been the witness of a very strong acceleration in the digital transformation of higher organization. Well, which is basically exactly the same thing that has happened in all the other industries since the COVID-19 appeared. We have a large digital transformation of all the industries. But what is really interesting, if we look at the higher education industry sector, is that this digital transformation does not occur in the entire value chain. What I want to say is that, and you all know that when we are talking about digital transformation of higher education organization, we are not only talking about online learning or introducing some innovative digital learning experience tool. Basically, we are talking about transforming the entire student's journey from the times the journey, from the times that the students is hesitating between going to one university or another one, up to the time the same student will graduate and enter his professional and career life. So the digital transformation of a higher education organization is about transforming the three basic pillars: the marketing pillar, the students experience pillar, and the alumni experience. And this is basically the thing that had happened in all the industries. But for higher education, what is really interesting is that this COVID-19 really triggered an acceleration on the second pillar only, which is the red zone on this slide. And the second pillar is about students' experience and more precisely about the digital learning experience, so e-learning, everything, all the tools and the methods and all the new way of teaching by using digital tools my colleagues and the previous speakers were talking about. And what is really interesting from private investment point of view is that all these new digital tools introduced, who are being elaborated in the edtech area and introducing in higher education today, they are very useful to achieve what we can call cost reduction or budget optimization, which is from private investment funds, something very interesting. So right after the COVID-19 started, we've seen like an increase, like a boom in the interest of private investment funds for e-learning providers, e-learning platforms, and also higher education, and especially all the higher education organizations that were not already digitized in the way they used to teach. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the figures for 2020 in private investment in edtech and higher education, if you compare these figures to the figures of past year, it's like 2020 has just been a record-breaking year in higher education and edtech investments. We have $14 billion invested in edtech, which is 2 times the amount of money that have been invested in 2019. And you are all aware, especially in France, of this amazing deal from Arden acquiring AD Education just 2 months ago. It was in December for 19 times the EBITDA, which is something that we have never seen in Europe. So we have today a growing penetration of private investment funds in higher education, which is something not really new in Europe. Well, in North America, it has been the case since lots of years, and in Asia, same thing. But in Europe, it was not that accurate. And since the COVID-19, it's like this growing penetration has been accelerated, and the interest is stronger. And what does that mean? What does that entail in terms of change management for the higher education organization, and then for the way they teach and for the innovation they will introduce in their courses? Well, the first type of changes is an organizational change. Of course, as soon as you have an investment funds arriving on top management of your higher education organization, it will mean reorganization with shared services, business units, CFO, CMO, and all the other executive directors. It will mean also the creation of processes with steering committees and midterm, long-term strategic value plan creation. This, for some higher education organizations, this could be a shift from moving to a family or NGO business culture, which is the case of quite a lot of higher education organizations before they reach a certain size, to a well-processed private company culture, which is 2 things really different. And especially when we're talking about teaching and pedagogical innovation and the pedagogical program, it could change lots of things. Then the second change that we can notice as soon as you have an investment fund that enter the top governance, top management of a higher education organization, is that they will increase the data-driven decision-making management. And as you know, investment funds are not only interested in digital transformation, but they are interested in digital and analytic transformation. It means that, as François Tadei and also Kyungmee mentioned it, we use the power of data today in order to better manage company, business unit, organization, and of course, in case of higher education organization, in order to provide better students experience to our students, in order to personalize the experience. So we focus on this data analysis, and for some higher education organization, this could be a radical change in management, and especially for the organization where the decision makings used to be based on opinions, perceptions, or sometimes charisma of some executive director. So these are the two main changes. If you think about the top management, well, the governance of higher education organization, and these two changes, they could change everything in the way the teachers, the professors, the researchers can work in these organizations. And it could also accelerate or decrease the time of penetration of the new innovation when we are talking about learning innovation. So yes, there is a change management. There is no doubt about that. Nobody can deny there is a change management in higher education today, and this is a really good thing. But considering all the challenges our new modern societies are facing, and I had no clue about the question David would ask to François Tadei, and especially one of the two last questions. But actually, it's also my last pound, the change of paradigm. Well, so we have this change management in higher education today with a push from the market, if we can say, the push from the students because they need online courses, and also like a pull from top management because investors and governance, they're focused on the EBITDA, and actually both of them are just aligned. But what does higher education really need today? And this is the last question I would like to address for the last few minutes with you. Thanks to the COVID-19, and I really do think that this COVID-19 has been a tremendous opportunity for higher education, really. So the COVID-19 has highlighted the fantastic role and importance of the four major disruptive innovation that all the other industries have implemented, and they are using like artificial intelligence, blockchain, the cloud, the IoT, and the big data. And in that sense, it is a really, really good thing. But at the same time, the COVID-19 has also raised more profound issues, and individually, but also collectively, issues that are more complicated to address. And these kind of issues are linked to a shift in paradigm, in the sense that when we are university teacher, when we are researchers, when we are professors, when we are CEOs, president of higher education organization, or third-party investors, what today, considering all these major issues and challenges, the world, these societies we are living and our children will be living are facing, what should we teach and why? When you see, and I totally agree with what François Tadei just said a few minutes ago, when you see how successful, when you see the most successful online course on Coursera is about the well-being, that the most successful TEDx talk is about well-being and finding your true self. When you see the success of online courses like Mind Valley and so on, there is some question, there are some issues that I think higher education should address. And maybe this is the time to address this issue. Maybe it would be the topic for a new digital symposium for next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delphine. It was really a pleasure to see you, to hear you again. And
Thank you.
we had to discuss after, so you will be with us. And now we have the last presentation by our colleague. I don't see her. Are you here? It's Géraldine, yes, sorry. Géraldine Hatchuel here. She's our last speaker before the discussion. And Géraldine, you are founder and CEO of Choregraphy. You teach and practice disciplines at the intersection of design and management. And you are going to explain today how the web design experience can be inspiring and in new higher education on the impact in the organization's management of the later. So thank you very much. And it's to you.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the invitation. And I'm very glad to be able to add a few words about what we do at Choregraphy and what and the tools we use. How can they be useful for reinventing higher education? I'm going to share my screen. I hope it's going to be visible. So what was very interesting in the previous Delphine presentation was this paradigm shift that we can observe in education and especially in this time of COVID, where we had to digitalize all the education lots. What I'm going to say is that we think that the real paradigm shift is not in digitalization, but it is actually in the experientialization of the education experience. So as the student experience and the teacher experience, and this is actually a new way to we can see teaching in a new way, where education is not a top-down instruction, but the teacher has a new role, and I know it's very difficult because it involves a lot of resources, of time, of creativity to reinvent. But I think the real paradigm in education is to switch from this top-down education to designing puzzling learning experiences, and actually we can see that in many sectors where the posture of authority was at stake, like in the health sector or even in the private sector. And education, of course, we used to be teacher as we used to be authors. So we had a message, and we would just give the message to our students, our learners. And actually, with all what Professor Tadei said about the means for purpose, for motivation, for appartenance, for belonging, and for Ikigai, that there is a real need to be able not only to learn and understand the message, but as well to feel it, to experience it, to really be able to connect emotionally with the subject or the matters that the teacher wants to transmit. So that means that as educators, whether we have to be supported or or maybe work in binomes with let's say scene director, metteur en scène, scene so people who will create these experiences for us. And this I learned, I read that maybe working with other discipline like design, like art, could be and spirituality could be a way to be able to scenarize these experiences. And I'm going to show you a few examples that we did, and some are basic and some are maybe a bit more fun. So this is just a barometer tool that we work we use when we work with education, with schools or with companies, in order to start a work where we know where we want to go, if we want to go from to create routine experience, or we want to go to exotic or puzzling. And of course, the more you go to exotic and to puzzling, the more you create transformational experience, high intensity, high connection, high emotion, and the more you create this paradigm shift that we are all talking about, and that we need so much in these times of COVID, where of course our students and us as well as teachers or as workers need today. So we have a few tools. I will not talk too much about them, but of course you understand that all our tools come from design world, art world, and living art world as well. And I will be available for more explanation if needed. And I will go directly to the example to maybe illustrate what we can do. And of course, this is just examples, and we can imagine much more. So in the chat, I just before my intervention, I posted a link to an article we wrote about experiential telework, but it can be interested as well for experiential, let's say, teleeducation, and it explained that this distancing of the education and the digitalization of the education is not really the problem, because you can always digital an experience that is very clear in the creative intent or in the exploration intent. So for example, I can show you here examples of a workshop that we gave, because our work is to create whether workshops or trainings and or classes that are experiential, and where the students where we ask the students to do some research and to transmit the results of their research in an experiential way, and in fact in a narrative and scenarized way. So we give them a few improvisation tools or narrative tools to create sessions where they use what they have, new decor, new outfits, maybe a bit of drawings, to really go deep into the transmission through living arts. Here you have another dimension, which is the body. Of course, we know that we are all stuck in our computers in front of screen all day, but these examples show that it is actually not compulsory. We are not forced to be all behind the screens, and we could, of course, organize only. We could organize some promenades. So this is what we did with our scientific committee. So for an hour and a half each 2 weeks, a speaker had to guide us, but only with the voice. And we were all supposed to be walking. So that was some walking conference to really use the body. Of course, we had this 1 kilometer in France distance, but still we could, of course, explore our environment. We could as well use the body, even if you are at home, you are in one place, you are in a room, so you can always use your body to get the student warm. And of course, maybe some of them already did their sports, but it's not the same to do it collectively. And we cannot really see it in this second picture, but some students were very creative, and when we asked them to do the tree pose that maybe some of you know, they actually went in their flat and took some real plants and did some very funny pose with their real plants. So of course, you know that. Breaking rules and going off the road is always fun for students. So that give them the opportunity as well to go off road. And even in the context of this screen where we are all in small boxes as if we were in a small screen jail, let's say, we invented the concept of co-refinement, which is actually a way to play with the screen, and so each new workshop, each new class, the student had to collectively invent a new way to create an artwork in the screen. So this is a few examples where you can use the body, the gesture, and the environment to take a step back from the screen.
You have just a minute, please.
Sorry, I'm a bit long. Well, this is a few examples as well with drawings and with games. And this is another example of because we created a place called the Story Room, and so we were giving some virtual visits through this Story Room. So I'm not going to be longer. My recommendation would be to get inspired from all the sectors that are reinventing today and audience based. So of course, culture, cinema, art. Of course, to do not fear risk or shame to test new formats. And maybe if it's the first time that we do it, we can always have a low profile posture and say to the student, it's new, please don't be don't be too bad on me. And Professor Tadei talked about this vulnerable posture. It could always be held. Always think of the emotional and scenaristic journey. We talked about Delphine talked about the student journey to reinvent. So in terms of before, while, after, is it active, interactive, participative, using sense of humor, entertainment tools, and let's say dare to use the bodies. Voilà. Thank you very much for listening to the few tips and examples we had.
Thank you very much for this presentation, which is disruptive. And now I propose to open the discuss. And I have selected some questions. And if you want, you can also pick up some question. But I have some question. One is maybe for Delphine. Is the notion of public good disappearing is higher and being are we being to be Amazonized? It is one question. I have another question about the disruptive learning. This question, if a disruptive learning is not an aim we should have as teachers on digital tools are only a mean among others, so more general or not only digital, maybe for everybody who wants to answer to this question. We can start with these two questions. So Delphine, maybe you can answer with the question of if Amazon is going to buy all the universities in the next world.
Well, thank you for the question. Well, it's I think it's completely natural that people are wondering to what extent private investors can enter the higher education sector or market. So this could be Amazon, and actually the issue is not that the question is quite relevant, as Amazon is today entering the car industry with these independent electric cars like Tesla and Google and all the GAFA. So actually, I will do like an answer in two levels. The first level is that it's quite a tricky question actually. So the first level is that maybe Amazon or one of the main 5 leading companies in AI today could enter the educational sector, since they realize that there are lots of data that could be used. Because as François Tadei said, and I also recommend everyone here to watch this very interesting document on Netflix, which is a social network, and you see how individual data are today available for the 5 main leading companies: Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and also Netflix. So it could be. I have no crystal ball. I cannot say, but it's not a nonsense to raise this issue. But what I will say is that for the good of everyone. Higher education organization, quite a lot of them are either managed by the state in some countries, and this is the case in France and in lots of countries in Europe especially. And I think that this could prevent for some tendencies for private investors to radically change the purpose of education. If this is the meaning, that the purpose of education will be changed, and that there will only be a focus on EBITDA and cash flow or stuff like that. So it will be my answer.
Thank you, Delphine.
I don't know if it's satisfying.
Thank you, Delphine. Kyungmee, maybe about the question of disruptive learning. Someone asked, is not an aim we should have as teachers on digital tools or only a mean among others? So more general or not only digital? Maybe Kyungmee.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I totally agree with the comment. I don't think particular to add that, because the essence of what we're doing is no matter what kind of technology we're using, actually, it's a really connection we want to have with the students. And then student learning should be focused. So in a way that I kind of formulated my presentation, kind of indicating the online education is something superior maybe to face-to-face, but I didn't really mean to do that. But what I was trying to say is that there are always the potentials of new technology will bring into educational sector, giving us different ways and alternative ways in which we can connect with our students in more creative way. So one of the things that many faculty members who've been doing brilliant job during the pandemic, their kind of shared reflection is they kind of get to know their students really well. Unfortunately, I mean, previously, although they have students sitting in their lecture theater or even smaller seminar rooms, they haven't had much kind of opportunity for them to talk to individual students in very deeper way. It's not only their fault because student didn't really try to, or student really didn't feel to share that much of personal stuff before. But during the pandemic, being able to, being enabled by online technology, which allowed them to have one-on-one interaction, which wasn't really possibly done in previous setting. They got to know their students, and then that kind of instant feedback from students and feeling of being connected to students, although they're at the distance, that's something that many faculty members shared and adore. So yeah, it's right that going back to the question, yes, this disruptive technology is not, it shouldn't be the focus of what we want to say, but the focus should be how we can utilize different tools, whether it's low tech or high tech, to achieve the goal that we have. So proposal of education should be, in my view, no matter what the public or private discussion we are having, is the genuine connection between teacher and students, and then transform knowledge in a way that that knowledge will change and develop our students in the future. So I would just say that, and just been finishing up by saying I agree with the comment that technology shouldn't be the priority that we have talked about.
Thank you. Now maybe to Benoît. I have a question here. All technical solutions in learning methods are amazing, but I wonder, it's not me, it's Emily, but I wonder if they allow us to address also the new ecological and energetical issues raised by the unprecedented climate change we are facing. So what is your point of view about that, Benoît, maybe?
I don't get the question.
Sorry? But okay. Maybe who wants to add something about that? If not, maybe Benoît, you can add a point if you want with the questions, with the discuss. Do you want to add a point?
The question you spoke before with Kyungmee, I think, of course, the technology and the computers, the online teaching is not a solution. It's a method. It's one of the methods even. And of course, it's an aim for us to. What was the question? If it's an aim to.
So maybe Géraldine can help to Benoît, because it's only the point which was important in our presentation. But actually,
Can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
The question was about the importance. Well, maybe you can show your question, but it was about the role of teachers. In fact, when we are discussing about disruptive learning, it's not the most important people are the teachers or not the tools. So it was a question. What do you think about that? Or you can add something.
Of course, in the model I showed, it depends how we see the teacher. If the teacher is only the source of the messages, of the content, of the knowledge, or if the teacher is as well the designer of the learning experience and puzzling experience, and if the teacher is able to be both, of course the teacher, in my point of view, creates a real new paradigm in education and is able to address all the needs of the 21st century. Of course, Amazon, Google, and all the knowledge that can be that we can find on internet is full of knowledge, of resource, and if the teacher keeps only his author, let's say, role, it's very easy to be replaced. So, in my point of view, of course, it's important to reinvent and be able to scenarize this learning experience.
Thank you. And Delphine, David asked to you a question. I don't know if you have seen the question, Delphine.
No.
Do you have example of higher ed institutions that successfully implemented a data-driven approach at all levels of institutions?
Yes, of course. Thank you for your question, David. Well, for me, one of the best one of the best illustration of successful implementation of data analysis in higher education is the Tomorrow Advancing Life education group, TAL education group, which is a Chinese education group originally. And what is very interesting about this company, if you look at the way it has been built, is that they actually, François Teddy, same thing. It's not, I just mentioned him a few times today, but he was talking about the indication in the entire journey of life, if I can say, from kindergarten up to certificate, business certificate, executive MBA. So all the professional, all the learning programs you could address when you are an adult. And TAL Education actually has built and own kindergarten schools, and after that college school, university school, and they also provide EMBA program or professional certificate. And thanks to all these activities, they are able today to profile like a students or apprenticeship life from the kindergarten stage up to your graduation day. And it is just something, it's something very interesting. So it could raise lots of question about ethics, and of course, and we could address also this issue in another discussion. But I really do think that it also helps to improve the teaching methodology that we are using. That we are using for each kind of students we are trying to learn, to teach, because teaching is about trying to learn something to somebody else, trying to convey emotions, to convey some knowledge. And so yes, so my answer is yes, TAL Education. If you want to have more information about this company, I will be delighted to send some information to you after this conference. And what is really interesting about this company too is that if you look at the kind of collaborators you can find in this group, you have teachers, you have researchers, you have professors, English professors, well, language professors and human sciences, tech professors, and you also have data analysts, data scientists, data architects. You also have web developers. And so to do like a relationship with the first issue about Amazon, will Amazon be able to enter the higher education market? Well, actually, I do think that it will be a real differential advantage for higher education organization to be able to understand that they have to hire people who are able to do the same thing, almost the same thing as these GAFA company, and dealing with data, dealing with the cloud, being able to use the blockchain, because this is it will also help to build the digital learning experience in a more intelligent way. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Delphine. And the last question to Kyungmee from Cormac. Kyungmee, you are with us. The question is how she's here, Kyungmee?
Yeah, I can.
Yes. How do we address the notion of so-called incompetence vis-à-vis digital technologies on digitally mediated interaction? So,
yeah, thanks for the question, Cormac. Am I? Yeah. I mean, there was the comment above as well when I was talking about teachers saying incompetent, that the Francois didn't really agree with me. So it was amazing to see that, because I didn't really agree with that anymore too. Because what I would try to say when I was talking on the page saying the teachers were not competent, it was the worries that we had originally when we realized that everyone has to teach online. But actually what I was trying to say is that regardless of our worries, actually teachers came out to be very competent. And of course, it took some time for them to get used to this new environment and technological tools. However, as soon as they got along with it, they actually were brilliant teachers. There were so many teachers who did really good job that even education technologists didn't really think of possibly done. So what I'm trying to now say is that teachers were competent in their subject matter, and then their pedagogical approach that they took. And then the technology didn't really hinder them that much from realizing their potential and then practicing their teaching that much. But going back to Cormac's question, of course that so that's why it's kind of partially answered that. But that's what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is this technological competence is not something that we can teach people out of vacuum. That's what we have tried to do for the past 20 years. We tried to teach and train faculty to be able to use technology, but that didn't really work. But when they had the opportunity to do just-in-time learning, and they were thrown into situation, actually they pick it up so much quicker than we expected. So of course so for me, that situated learning is something or only way for us to address, even in the future, that when new technology is introduced, that should be. And at the end of the day, that should be coming from faculty member themselves as an individual, if they want to try to use different technology, and they should see the value of trying the new things out for developing better, digitally mediated interaction with their own students. So, Cormac, I didn't really answer your question because I don't know, but we have to really think about what we can learn from this amazing experience that we had.
Thank you very much. We are just on time. It was very, very interesting. I'm sure that everybody thinks that. Thank you to all participants, and thank you to everybody to be still here with us. And now we propose a break, and we will be back for just 5 to 2 for the third roundtable with Cormac O'Keefe. So have a good lunch and thank you very much. Bye bye.